Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. Electrifying.
Yes, guys, welcome back to the instant reaction. Nottingham Forest 0, Arsenal 0.
You sleep? Oh man.
That Declan Rice moment at the end, I think, actually summed up our season.
Season or the game?
Both the season, the game, everything. Arsenal. Everyone knew where that ball needed to go. Everyone in the stadium, everyone watching, everyone knew that ball needed to be whipped in with pace and cause some chaos. And he floated it in. I think before this game, I had like a small part of me. I've thought Liverpool will win it for ages, probably since about December. Like, just thought it, like, you know, hoped that we would win, but thought Liverpool would win. And I think today is the day that hope has gone. Like, there's just nothing. There is absolutely nothing left for us in this campaign. I'm sorry to do that. But that's how this.
Why are you apologizing? I mean, there's the people on the pod that have done that as well, like me and Rohan included. I think as soon as I saw the Havertz injury, it was done for me. But it's really difficult because the application between West Ham and today was miles apart. So from an application sense, I'm not as angry, but I don't know if Mikel has done the subs that I would have done. And I think he's consistently taking out momentum in the game. And, you know, you don't want to blame people because you're battling with basically a huge bleed in your stomach. You're sitting there trying to get through something that I don't think that we can get through. It's all going to be flawed, but I just don't see him picking the right solutions, especially when things don't go our way. And I don't know. I have a look at that, and I thought the first half was good. It was like a very similar story where I felt like, just like at West Ham, the first half was fine. And then we go into the second half, we remove momentum because we keep adding redundant central players, asking them to do some more stuff that I don't think we're finding the spaces with. And I hope a lot of the Ben implications here are because of fitness, and that's why we haven't seen him a little bit earlier. But I don't know. I think it's pretty significant that he's taken off both Ethan and Odegaard kind of in the last 10 minutes when you're looking for a goal. Is that a little bit more of a red zone talking for those players? Probably. But I think his solutions about adding Zinchenko and Partey and then having Declan Rice be ahead of the ball, it seems a little bit strange, to be honest with me. And when you get, you know, Kieran Tierney on, I don't understand why Trossard is the one that's wide and Kieran Tierney is the one in the half spaces when you put him on. And those are the things that we aren't doing to help ourselves. And that's what really frustrates me. And I think Mikel is scrambling, but I also just don't think he's helping himself because some of the balance things that we're seeing right now, I don't know, the basics aren't being done right from my perspective in terms of some of the rotations. But at the same time, I think that the intensity today was a lot different. I can't complain. I felt like West Ham, I was very angry because the application from everybody was just off. The application was a lot better, but yeah, mate, like I really struggle here, and I do not like Mikel Merino to start for 90 minutes as a center forward. I think you're playing a man down when you do that. I think it's a great rotation to have in your back pocket in the last 20 minutes to change a game. But to sit there and to do it for 90 minutes, I think is something that that isn't fair. It isn't fair on him and on the team because you just lack a central reference. And I find it difficult because I don't think the boys weren't trying today, you know. So from that perspective, I'm not as angry, but I just think that the substitutions were really poor.
Ivan, thank you for the super chat. Who'd have thought a team playing with 5 midfielders and 1 winger at front of the defence would fail to score goals? The board, clearly. Yeah. George, thank you for the super chat. Sad face. Mafio, the attackers are bad, so why are we not generating chances when the entire midfield is healthy? This coach can't coach an attack. Dane says, we played well, much more energy, making runs and winning duels. We played much better than versus Leicester and West Ham. Forest defended well. George says, tactics are a shambles. We are done. And Ultra Pro Gamer says, we were good today, just have no quality up front. Yeah. we look, man, we can talk about should Tierney have been in the, I'm not mocking you, but we can talk about should Tierney have been in the half space versus Trossard, but I think it pales in comparison to the fact that we have our 4 best attackers out, and this season has just been an absolute write-off in that sense. And I think Mikel could have got the subs perfect this evening, and he could have got the tactics perfect this evening. Ultimately, we're playing a very good team away from home. I think that was the last time Nottingham Forest had a 0-0 was like at home or something. It was like the 1990s or something. There's always goals in that game, and we turn up and it happens that way. And look, I don't know if you saw the comments from Mikel earlier about that we'd be in mid-table if it weren't for what happened. And it's really difficult because I kind of swing back and forth between the two, between like, well, no, but Mikel needs to be getting stuff right. But also, bro, we've praised his coaching this season. We've sat here on pods and said he's got so much right. And I'm not saying he got it right this evening, but I also just can't look past the fact that it was a 0-0 where we completely dominated possession. We had the better of the chances. We had some big moments, and we couldn't put it in the back of the net. And I don't think you need to look much further past our 4 best attackers are out. That is. Do you know what I mean? And there's no, and then it's like, okay, how did that happen? And then we can get into stuff like, okay, load management and all that stuff, and that's an interesting conversation. But I can't get past it, and it's so frustrating because it just drives narratives. Ultimately, results are results. It doesn't matter. It doesn't and this is the thing, and this is the part I agree with people on. I can come to a sort of a context about this season and be like, oh yeah, but injuries or whatever, and that context all matters. But in the end, a meteor could hit the Emirates. The point is we need to win. Do you know what I mean? I'm not in any way being like, we need to get rid of the manager or anything. But I think that's the frustrating part for me is that it just doesn't matter.
I don't know. So the frustrating thing that I've got between this is I still feel you need to maximize what you've been given, and I just don't know if we're doing that quite yet. And I think that this was like the best game in the last 2 or 3.
Dude, I don't. I'm sorry, I don't disagree. But do you not think that just pales in comparison to the fact that we have Saka, Martinelli, Havertz, and Jesus out?
Well, of course, but we knew that since January. We knew the failings of the board from that, and we kind of knew that from the very beginning, right? And we knew that once we didn't get the forward that we needed, and once Havertz went down, we knew that was going to be the story. And I don't think, at least with what I'm seeing on the pitch, we dominated Forest. And has Mikel done the best he could with an opportunity to change his subs? I don't think so. I think that he could have done some things better today, and there are some coaching errors that are happening right now. And it's kind of a case of what I said on the pod last time for me, where you can tie your hands behind your back and get thrown in the water, but you don't have to pencil dive. You can tread. And I don't know if Mikel's treading right now. We seem to be lacking an idea about how to change things that aren't going well. And that certainly comes down from your assets not being there. That certainly comes down to having a flawed solution. But I don't know if I'd wing the test studying, even if it's something that I haven't seen. And I think for the most part, what I'm seeing right now are just things that don't line up. Like Sterling, when he comes on in the last 5-10 minutes, like, let's analyze that solution. You've got Ben White there. I don't know why he's on the right and he's not on the left. Again, I talked about the Kieran Tierney and the Trossard change. I don't know what I'm seeing there, to be honest with you. I think when I'm having a look at why you're going to bring on Zinchenko, Partey, and have Declan Rice up ahead of the ball for the better part, at least Zinchenko, when you move him up, you're talking the better part of 20, 25 minutes. And I don't think Declan Rice was very good, but also I'm not going to ask him to be receiving ahead of the ball in the block. So there's peculiar decisions that I think, and that's where I understand the frustrations of people. But today was a night and day difference in terms of the application. So I can't fault the players, and I think that the plan was pretty good in the first half. Like I understood what was happening. I felt like Calafiori was doing some really good movement, and I thought Ethan was getting himself into the game, especially in the last 20 minutes of the first half. But yeah, mate, like I think that at the very least, when we look at something like this, the only thing that I would say is we need to start asking ourselves who are the other holes within the team, and it's highlighting issues that I think you get away with when your first team is so good. Like we're undoubtedly a great team. So in terms of seeing the issues and the minutia of that, it can be pretty difficult. But I don't know if everything during this run is going to be basically I had no attackers and I can hands up a lot of the decisions that I'm doing. So that's where I'm at. That I feel like we're doing okay, but I don't know if we're maximizing what we could with what we have.
I don't think we are, mate. But I just, for me, that conversation, just personally, just is a drop in the ocean for the wider context. And like, you know, for example, this evening we saw more runs out around the outside, which I thought helped us. Really helped us. And it's something we've called for before, and we were talking about on the last podcast. And frustratingly, it tells us it's a choice from Mikel. I actually liked the Declan Rice adjustment, where what I thought was happening was we're pushing Calafiori further forward and Marina was dropping out to the left, and it meant Rice had a bit more freedom to come off at the last line, had a bit more space in the pocket. Forrest adjusted, but especially in the first 20, 30 minutes, I thought he had some nice moments in there. I like the adjustment of pulling Trossard inside, quite like that. But yeah, mate, I don't know, dude. I don't know if this is what you're saying, but I just think that's it's like 1% of the context here, and I just.
Well, I think what happened was Forrest could see the movement between the lines, and that's why we did really well in the first half. And then by bringing in Yates, they were able to block the central progression quite a bit. And I just don't understand why the solution was to add deep passers again, which is what we've done now 2 or 3 times in the match, where the solution to things not going on is adding more central players when the opposition's response is to add more central players. That to me has been something that I've not understood. And
but again, I just say I don't think that's just this game. I think it's about the bench that we have and the fact that we just don't have runners in this team, or we don't have runners that Mikel trusts anyway. You know, outside of Martinelli, players who he is willing to get. And I saw a clip of us against Nottingham Forest last season, and Mikel, and there was a moment where we were on the transition and Saka scored off his right and looked really good. And it was really frustrating because we were running, and I just don't think when we put players central, I think it's because Mikel thinks that's the best option. But I also don't think we have the resources available to make another decision. Like, I think he just thinks, well, I'm not going to put Zinchenko on in a running capacity. You know, someone made a point to me this week, and I think it's actually a very good one, about Kivior, where he said, I'm going to try and find it. It was this guy I recorded with from Arsenal Gothenburg podcast. Hang on, he made a really good point to me. Kivior, the Fulham Arsenal 2-1 New Year's Eve 2023. Kivior was inside in that game and he was awful. And afterwards, Arteta said he shouldn't have put Kivior there because he wasn't comfortable. And I think there's been a few moments like that over Arteta, like in Arteta's recent history, where he's just refused to do anything that seemingly, I think, with a lot of players aren't comfortable with. And again, he just would never ask Zinchenko to be a runner on the outside, you know, as he did last game against West Ham. He would never get Raheem Sterling on and be like, right, okay, I'm just going to have you centrally. He'd be like, right, well, you know, you need to play in my system. And it's incredibly frustrating. And I don't think it's just this game. And I think it's down to the squad that we have. And it's an Arteta bugbear I have more generally. But
yeah, I mean, look, I'll start with some of the positives because I think Ethan was really getting into the game at the end of the first half, and I thought he had some really bright moments in terms of coming inside, turning out of pressure, but also even seeing the pass beyond. And I thought Calafiori, even though he had really difficult 1v1s, his movement across the line was brilliant.
Yeah,
and he
it's
was
really
offering quite a bit in terms of the underlap and the overlap. So there was a lot of really good intent in terms of what he was offering, and he does create doubt because he can go both ways, right? Like in terms of that shot that ricochets off the post, and again, I think that goes in. You're talking about a very different type of night because from that point we were on top and we were really having control of the game, but it gets to a point where, and this is where I think my criticism comes in, right? We are a flawed team right now. You can't afford to take it to the 90th minute and squeak out the margins. You can't afford to do that because this team is hurt and it's going to play hurt at some point in the 90 minutes. So when you're on top and when the change has to come and we get to a point where maybe we don't score the goal that we're talking about, right? What is the reaction to it? What is the way that we're going to change our game plan up? Because we have to. So yeah, that for me has been the one issue that I've really got with this. And I understand that he's playing injured in a sense. You know, this is not something that we would choose. But also, yeah, there are some things, you know, when you mentioned he wouldn't put people in positions that they don't thrive, but he does do it to other players in the 11, like Rice. Even Sterling, I wouldn't put him in that position in terms of where he was at. The Trossard, in terms of keeping him wide as opposed to coming inside, we know where he is. Kieran Tierney playing in the half spaces for a majority of the match. Like there's examples of other people in the 11 that he doesn't platform, and then there's examples of other people he does platform. And that for me is the issue in terms of the subs. But I don't think it's a clear change as if, Mikel, you don't choose this, we're going to win. Like it's not that simple. You know, everything that's going to be chosen is flawed. Everything that's going to be chosen is going to have a con to it. Again, I just thought that the application was really good today. So I was a lot happier and I'm not as hungry, you know, as I was against West Ham. And to a lesser extent, Leicester, I thought there was still some application issues there. But for the most part, I thought today, like it wasn't like the team wasn't trying. The impetus was really good. We were moving the ball quite well, especially in the first half. And my only issue is once it got to the 65th minute again, the 70th minute, the team gasses out. And that's an inevitability. You know what I mean? Especially with who we have available. So that for me is going to be an issue pretty much until we get Martinelli and Saka back. And even then, they're coming back from big injuries. Like this isn't a case of, oh, once they're back, we'll be fine. Like there's going to be an extra week or 2 weeks of them having to gain up to match fitness. And this is something that's going to be ahead of us at least for the next month, maybe 4 to 6 weeks. And that's why I'm keen on finding a solution because I'm just not sure if I'm seeing one right now. I'm not sure if I'm seeing one.
Yeah, no. We can move chairs around on the Titanic, mate. But one of Watkins, Colomwani, Wissa, and Buemo, Jonathan David, Jimenez would have all done something more than Sterling. Yep. Mohammed, don't worry, guys. It's a good draw against our top 4 rivals because Liverpool don't know we exist, bro. I would take top 4 right now. 100%.
Wait, are you worried about top 4?
No. But if someone said to me, like, guaranteed 3rd place finish, I'd be like, all right. Yep. Just because I want this season done. More to skip to the end of the season is the point.
To simulate the season.
To sim to the end of the season. You can have 3rd now. Do it. Yep. See you in May. Anurag, Calafiori is still a net positive. In my opinion, he's not. Also, when we need a goal, why do we make subs on central defensive midfielders and fullbacks but give 0 minutes to academy forwards on the bench? Like, what the fuck will Partey do? Or mate, like,
I do think that there's something worth talking about there because I've seen a lot of suggestions for Nathan Butler Oyedeji. I've seen suggestions for Kabia, and they just aren't ready. And they just aren't ready for adult football. I mean, if you're talking about Nathan, he's failed really at every loan that he's gone on in terms of adult football. And yes, he's the top scorer, but he's actually 22 this year. Like, as far as offering something new, I think a lot of people's frustrations is that they're seeing a lack of change, a lack of threat, and the point is, well, how much worse could they do? Is I think the argument behind it. But if they're fundamentally not ready to play in terms of adult football, you've got people that are fundamentally flawed there. They're going to be worse in terms of what you're having. And at least for me, Ethan's probably the only one that takes shots in this team, and that is a problem. I think one thing that really frustrates me is the scooped pass that we seem to be doing at the edge of the box quite a bit. It's being forced quite a bit. I don't mind having it in your arsenal, so to speak, but to rely on it as like a big chance creation pass is something that I think that we're doing a little bit too much of right now. But look, mate, like it's difficult. It's difficult to kind of come after an IR like that because the team showed application. Any solution that you're going to pick is flawed. And
yeah, and
I
like
have some slight tweaks, but I don't have anything major that I'm going to say, you know, beyond
this,
it would be nice to have somebody back.
And this is what I mean. I hope you don't think I'm being disrespectful, because I think I don't disagree with what you're saying about certain players in certain positions. I just think it's such a drop in the ocean. Like I really do. And you know, for example, even downstream from this comment, look at the bench, bro. We've got Butler, Odeji, and Kabia, and then there's and Raheem Sterling, who did come on. There's no one else there. We've got Partey, Tierney. It's just fullbacks and CDMs. So like, you know, what can you do? Of course, we're only bringing on CDMs and fullbacks. They're the only players we have. Shout out to you both for having the energy to do a stream tonight. I feel deflated. Matt, I don't have the energy. Look at me. Look at me. Jamie Carragher's beefing me on Twitter, and I'm here. What about Academy forward Butler? Try him at least. Yeah, George has just spoken about that. Mohammed, the board didn't. Thank you for super chat, Runak. Mohammed, the board didn't help, but our issues predate the injuries and starts with our 21-player squad, not counting Tierney. It's beyond me, and is 100% on Arteta. 4 additional players is 16% of the resources we were allowed. I don't actually know the number, but if we went into the season not on capacity, then yeah, that's stupid. O'Malley, this season is all on the hierarchy from summer till now. They took the whole project for granted. They thought it was a sure thing. You have to earn your wins on the pitch and in the boardroom. Yeah, I mean, we've spoken about this on Instant Reactions before, like, you know, where do you place the blame? As I've said before, I don't think you can ever just be like, it's all this or all this. But I would agree it's largely, I would say majority on those above Mikel and the coaching staff and the playing staff. I'm not, as you were saying earlier, in terms of like the application, I'm not expecting Ricardo Calafiori to score me a weak foot finessed finish. So like, you know, so why should I get angry at that? I'm expecting us to go and sign some attacking talent, which we knew about a year and a half ago. Official JDAM Productions. Time to be honest now, guys. Hashtag Kroenke out. Hashtag Arteta out. I think one thing that's frustrating about football discourse, if you disagree with me, you're not being honest. If you forget something, you're lying. If you don't align with my takes, it's gaslighting. So, like, how about I just have a different opinion to you? You're allowed to think Kroenke out and Arteta out, but like, it's not an honesty thing. I just don't agree with you, and I don't think you're lying because you want that. It's weird times, man. Anorak, yes, we do have injuries and things will be tough, but honestly, the way Mikel has failed to adapt and adjust has actually been poor. Also, it's underachieving because of injuries. What about Areola at Bournemouth? I saw someone say, they were like, "Oh, who would you replace Arteta with?" And the guy was like, "The guy at Bournemouth." I was like, "You don't even know his name. You don't even know Areola's name, and you're saying replace him." But yeah, on this comment, yeah, I think we've discussed in terms of, yeah, of course, there has been adaptation issues and adjustment issues. But mate, I tell you, this is a good way to do it. Go under the team news on any like official team accounts, Twitter, as it drops, and you will see all of the rivals fans' narratives. And the Isak narrative this evening for Newcastle was classic Eddie Howe, bad man, like game management. We'd never know about that. Every manager has flaws, and the question is how much you're willing to accept, basically.
Yeah, I mean, look, the one thing that I will say is, like, after West Ham, you need a response, and the team gave a response. So from that perspective, I'm happy. And again, there was some really good things that we did in the middle of the park, especially in the first half. Like, I did see some differences. I do think that Calafiori is somebody that could offer you a solution, less so at left back, but ironically in the left 8 position. Like, I think there was some really good things that he was doing. He always has an ability to create a big chance whenever he plays, always. And so when you're looking at it from a perspective of trying to find new solutions, like that's something that I think, not that we found, but it's something that I'd be willing to test out in this period. I would just like us to at least respect some of the balance issues, because that's something that Mikel has had an issue with in the past. And I'd like him to address it, because now's the time to be experimental. Like, no offense, it's not that you're giving up on the season, but I think when you have a look at it between now and the end, the fact that you're saying let's sim it, it's kind of a case of, I don't think whatever we do is consequential to our league form. So I would like to experiment things and use things that we see as a future with. And I don't know if Zinchenko is a future. I don't know Partey is a future. Like, when we're talking about implementing some of those solutions right now, I'm more of a fan of implementing stuff that we can see a long-term thing with. And it may not work.
No, moving forward, yeah, I don't disagree. But this evening you're trying to win a game, and you look to the bench and you're just trying to put professionals on and say go and win me a game. It's not. I hear you moving forward. Like, for example, if the vision next year is to play Miles in midfield, let's do it for the rest of the season. Why not? Like, if that's what the plan is, or it's to push Odegaard over or whatever it might be, I'd love to see that, because I think the season is done. But this evening and previously, I think sometimes you're just putting players on because you want them to go and win you a game. Like, it's that simple. O'Malley says this season is a lesson for a young coach as well. Yeah, potentially. AT Gerard says, just trying to show some love. Keep up the great content. Thought the league was done in November, but today was the final nail in the coffin. Thank you so much for your super chat. November. That's early. That is early. Come on. George Cole says, I have a tweak. Let's face their goal, not ours. That would help. I think taking shots would help as well. Just to run that out there. Abraham Espinoza says, for the next 3 or 4 weeks, just put the 0-0 in the bag. Yeah, I mean, okay, let's have a genuine conversation for this. Like,
yeah,
is it a case of like play the kids in the league and a type thing, or be, sort of accept that the league is done and really focus on the Champions League? Because that would make sense to me. Honestly, like, I'm not saying we go out there and we, play Butler Rodeji and, that Salmon kid, whatever his name is. But, like, I also, I'm not against, as we just said, trying certain things out and, seeing it through rather than killing ourselves in the league. I don't see the reason to. Why should you?
That was just my point. Like, find a solution that you see a long-term vision with and experiment with that. And it's about, I see you kind of had mentioned, like, we're just trying to win. Like, I want to look at the broad point and say next season, okay? It's not even just about the individuals he puts on, but as a mentality, if we face this game again, do I believe adding another deep-lying playmaker is going to swing that kind of a game? I don't know. I don't know if I believe in that solution. We've seen it. We've seen it not work, and we've seen it not work consistently. Now,
but do you think that's the solution he would have picked with a full squad?
Well, I think he would have had a starting 11, but my point is, when it's not going wrong, when it is going wrong and things aren't going well, the solutions that he's coming up with are not great, and they're going against things that we know that don't work. So I'll give you an example. Kieran Tierney represents a runner. Doesn't have to be a left back. We don't have to go out and get a left back. But when you have that kind of a runner, don't ask him to hang out in the half spaces and have your second striker be the one receiving a touchline. This is a profile thing about what you have in terms of profile. So if you want to do that, put people in positions that they thrive in. And as far as like the minutia about the game, I think you're going to be playing on margins from now to the rest of the season. So I really don't mind that. And like I said, I feel this team has 70 to 65 minutes in it every game until we get our main players back. That's just fundamentally how I see it. Because if the game goes beyond that, we lose momentum, we lose fitness, and you understand it. I mean, these guys are on the red zone. There's no larger red zone than this at this point. So when I am looking at these stuff, like, these are things that I think that we can change, and that when I have a look for next season, I don't know if I'm asking for those types of solutions if things aren't going well. Even with a full squad, it's more about trying things that I think make sense for me. I look at Ben coming on, and I think Ben's a fitness issue, but for me, I'd like to pair Ben with an Ethan at right wing you're going to have, a Sterling out there, then a Timber makes sense. Like making those decisions right more consistently.
I do get you. My pushback would be for like, I think, I don't know this, but I reckon if you looked at Kieran Tierney's heat map, he spent most of his time on the touchline. I think you'll think of a couple of incidents where he comes inside. And secondly, we're talking about, it's a very, like, I don't necessarily disagree, but if we were unconstrained, if we didn't have the squad that we have, I bet he'd be making different decisions and more sensible decisions. I think it's all downstream of that.
I think when things are going well, he's got more power. When things don't go well, I've seen a tendency for Mikel to not choose the best solution. And it's going back years for me. Like when he doesn't have plan A available. Plan A is typically incredible. It typically across the season, plan A consistently gets us challenging for titles. No one's debating that. But when there's a plan B, is he maximizing plan B? No. And does he maximize the squad with it? No. And I think it has to do with the decisions that he does in terms of getting them on the pitch and trying to replicate plan A from your plan B is something that I don't think Mikel does well in. And that's what I would like to kind of be the improvement. I think fundamentally when you've got people ahead, you're going to be fine. So I don't worry about that. I actually don't worry about his plan A ever.
I hear that on a wider sample, but I think applying that to tonight, I just think it's hard to know what he would have done. Do you know what I mean? And when we're in these situations, that's why I shy away from that kind of stuff, because I'm just like, realistically, we're in such threadbare situation. Everyone's in the red zone. There's suspensions and people out, and we're away and we're midweek, all these things. And I just think, like, what's that phrase? Everyone's got a plan until they're punched in the face, right? And like, I think probably over the course of Arteta's career, I would agree with you. I would, but I just think, like, at the moment, again, it just pales in comparison, in my opinion, to what's actually going on for us. Nujit says, I'm struggling to find a team in the Premier League Champions League with a forward line worse than ours at the moment. 4 comps to go with injured forward line and no inputs. Embarrassing. Well, yeah, I mean, our 4 best attackers are out, so you're probably right. Dane says, blame for our season. Blame for our season regression. Arteta. I feel like this is based off my rhetoric. Sorry, guys. Arteta 20%. Edu, Ato 20%. Kroenke's 20%. Players 20%. Injuries and Reds 20%. Arteta out is done. I would go, if those are the 5 categories, Edu leaving and that whole situation, the Kroenke's, I'd maybe put together as like a 60 to 70%, and then I'd probably go for the rest of it.
Yeah, but I will maintain so if Mikel is at 30%, is that what we're saying? Or like 15%?
15, 20, I reckon, ish.
Okay. If that's what you're saying, last year it was 7.5%. I think he's doubled his coaching errors. Not the major reason for us being at fault, but I've seen a lot more coaching errors this season. And I see a lot more injuries and red cards, but I see a lot more of him not responding to things going well than I did last season. And I think some of that will seem harsh because of the injuries and because of the red cards, but I've seen a really consistent sample about a particular type of game that we struggle with, and I see us continuously employing the same flawed solution to it, and I get frustrated with it. So I can understand why people are annoyed, but I still don't think you can say that Mikel is the issue with this season. I think that's categorically false. I think the board, we said it this year, is shambolic that for the year 2024, Arsenal did not recruit a forward. I will go against any podcaster in the world and say that is clinically insane. And the idea that there were no players that could, fix us is disgusting. Yeah. I've said this to you before. I think we are an outlier, not just in injuries, but in terms of red cards. That is crazy. I still don't think that, from a red card perspective, that is sustainable. And I think we have significant evidence this season that we are being more harshly punished. Again, we can ignore the why. I don't want to tread that water again, but we are being more punished. I don't want that to happen next season. I think that should stop. But I have to say, I think when I'm looking at Mikel, I I blamed players and other things more last season for some of the drop points that I'm seeing this year. I think that he's made a couple more coaching errors than I would have liked, but he's doing it with assets that he doesn't have, and he's doing it with a squad that aren't his potential. So,
and this is why it's hard. This is why it's hard to isolate, because, you know, Arteta is also involved probably in the, you know, apparently he's turned certain players down, and he's not been given the tools. So how much of that is downstream? You can't really isolate. It's very hard. But I suppose really, like, we're all adults. I don't know, maybe you're a child watching this, in which case go to bed. We're all adults. We can have an adult conversation. You can have primary, secondary, tertiary, whatever the fourth one is, reasons for things. If you think Mikel is the primary reason for this season going the way it is, I just can't agree. I'm really sorry.
Do you get the point, though, that I think, sorry, because I don't want to, it's not even just because it's something that I agree with, but it is one of the least factors. But do you see how people may think that there's more coaching error that he's done this season, despite
I can see why people
issues?
might think that. I can see why people might think that. But again, mate, as I've said, and maybe we just won't agree on this, when you're put in certain circumstances and you don't come out with the perfect, Mikel, let's say last season was much better circumstances. I'd be much more looking at last season and going, okay, well, you've got perfect circumstances and you're making bad decisions. If he was, or, you know, if we were saying he was, then I'd be looking at it. When you're in terrible circumstances and you're making suboptimal decisions, yes, okay, I would prefer you not to, but like, I think that that sort of is further upstream. You end up, it's you know, it's a situation.
But we have like the same opinion then, because like the problem is certainly upstream. It's what KSC and the board have done for sure. It's just, I do want to give credence, because look, mate, like at some point we are going to have a mid-block talk again, even though that was the point of the pod last time. But if I'm talking about like major solutions, and we're talking about kind of looking forward, because I think we can all agree that what we're going to see from now to the end of the season is not something that's a long term. It's not something that we're gonna like. It's going to be flawed. So from my perspective, I look for solutions, right? That's where my mind goes right now. And as far as looking for solutions going forward, I think the biggest thing that I would like to see is maybe analyze why the Merino thing isn't working and why it worked for 25 minutes. I think that there's something we can do there. I'm not sure if I'm agreeing from it from the start. I think when you have a look at things going wrong in the 70th minute after being frustrated, that is something that we need to look at. But fundamentally, we need to have people back. And I think that Ben, I maintain, when Ben is fit, even with the people out, I think you're going to see a massive difference. And it has to do with respecting the dynamism out wide. Is fundamentally where I stand on it. And I just don't think that we have done that enough.
And that's a wider thing with Mikel in terms of where I would be interested in a conversation about his use of the wide areas and why we haven't seen that run while Ben's been out. Mate, if you and Rohan want to have a conversation about why Merino at centre mid isn't working, at centre forward, fair enough. I will not be there. LT, having Meridona and Tierney Mar as attacking options is not enough. Who would have thought? Yes, indeed. Anthony B says this attack got me nostalgic for Laka and Willian.
I don't know about that.
I don't know about that, mate. Well, Laka might have cooked this evening. He might have cooked. Who knows? Matthew says he chose to let go of Smith Rowe and Nketiah, Nelson, Vieira, and replace him with Sterling. He deserves to be sacked because he never wins anything. Look, fair enough. Official Jdan says, I'm tired of hearing next season. Surely the last two transfer windows has highlighted the Kroenkes' lack of ambition other than top four. What phase is Slot in? The phase where the Ballon d'Or winner, he's inherited from the previous coach who they signed in 2016 or whatever it was. I think on the Kroenkes, as we've said before, I'm in a state of like, okay, this next window tells me a lot about you, because it's not a debate what Arsenal need. Heavy £100 million worth investment in the forward areas. If they do that, I'll be back at like, okay, yeah, I know I can see maybe that you had a year. I'm annoyed about that year, but you had a year. It happens. But I think if they don't go out and do what is abundantly clear, at which point we will be sat here on a stream on deadline day, summer 2025. If we haven't gone and done something serious, you will catch me going, not sure about the Cronkies. Clip me, whatever you want to do. It's based on this summer.
But I said that back in January. I've lost a lot of faith in them. And I think that even by getting the forward signings, I don't understand why you went an entire year like purposely choosing to regress the project. That was on you. And it worries me about the mentality. And that's why I was so angry in January. And it worries about going forward. The thing that I will say is like the sporting director appointment, I think is huge. It's another instance, like when you talk about signings and transfers, like it's such a clear picture for me that I actually don't doubt. Like I think we will get all of the things that we need. Actually, no, let me rephrase that. We won't get everything that we need, but we will get the minimum that we need to compete. So, i.e., the 2 forwards, we're going to get a central midfielder, we're going to get, and a number 2 goalkeeper at minimum. I think it's a minimum window that we will get. My frustration is, okay, now that you've done a year out, are you going to make one of those forwards a win now player? I think we have a right to demand that after an entire year, right? But if you don't do that, and for example, you just do 2 project forwards, you do the Zubermendi and you do the goalkeeper number 2. After the kind of seasons that we've had back to back, I'm looking at it and I'm just like, I have to say honestly, I really lose faith in terms of where we're going to be as an ambition moving forward. And, you know, yeah, there's a lot riding on this off-season campaign. And the first thing it happens to be is the sporting director. One thing I will say is the sporting director list is elite, mate. It's elite. Like you look at the names.
Let's do a pod on this. We probably don't have the time to go into it now, but let's do a pod on this at some point. I think you've got a lot to say on that. I mean, look, my only pushback in this might not be what you meant, but you said like purposely holding the project back. I do think we have to be careful. Sometimes you can just think we were 2 points off. We don't need that much investment. That might have been they were wrong, no doubt. But it's very easy to sit here in February 2025 when in May 2023 or 2024 or something, we were 2 points off City and it looked like everything was fine. We didn't expect the injury situation, the red card situation, how this season has panned out. No one expected that. The question is how you react. It's very easy to say after the fact, this isn't you, but to people who are, fully cronky out. It's very easy after the fact to say, well, you knew this season was going to... No, they didn't. It would be a valid answer last summer to say Marino, Calafiori, Raheem Sterling, the Raheem Sterling we thought we were getting, and the second goalkeeper. It probably wasn't enough, but we both sat there. You can go back and watch that stream. We thought we're still in with a chance. We haven't done everything we can, which is what's frustrating, but we're in with a chance. It wasn't enough, and we now know that, but we have to admit that we didn't know that at the time. The question now is reacting. You've seen that wasn't enough. What do you do now? That's the question I have for the Cronkies, and they have to answer that. Anujit, Arteta rigidity, always going for exact type of players, tactics, in-game management makes us struggle against the same teams, managers, and formations over seasons. Well, yeah, we will come to mid-block issues. Maybe we can look at line height, George, as a measure of that. Let's. That is a niche comment. Right. That was horrible, but thank you all for being here. Yeah, look, let's have a look at the table to depress ourselves even more. But look, it's over, and that's okay. Well, it's not okay. I'm trying to make it okay. It's not okay. The table is as follows. Liverpool are out in front we've got a game in hand, but the closest I think we could get is 10 points behind at this point with a game in hand. I'm not doing this, as in we're not going to, but if we did win from this position, I think I'd rename myself Mikel Arteta. I think I would change my name by deed poll to Mikel Arteta. I will do that. All right, I'll tell you what, I'll say this on the stream. If we win the Premier League from this point, I will change my name officially by deed poll to Mikel Arteta. If we win the Premier League from this point.
I'll get a tattoo. How about that?
Of what?
Mikel Arteta on in the tramp stamp area.
Lovely. I look forward to that picture. Oh! Say something clever. Go on.
Go jukebox, go. No, I don't know. It's just I feel deflated, mate. Like it's so difficult to come here after kind of something like that. And look, I do want to end. I think that this was the best performance that I've seen between the last 3 games, from Leicester, West Ham to this one. I think this, like, the application was way better. So I'm happy with that from the boys. I saw a lot more in terms of what we were trying to do with Calafiori and Ethan in the middle of the park. So there's definitely some attempts to really fix some of the central issues that we've talked about for at least 60 minutes, I would say. The only thing is, I really think that we need to do better in terms of our solutions, and Plan B is not going well. That's my only thing. So yeah, if we can fix those things and we wait for kind of basically Ben White to get back fit and slowly start to get people back, I think you're looking at yourselves and you're thinking there could be something that we can maybe look forward to in the Champions League. But I will maintain, I look at the league position right now, and I'm just looking at maximizing what you can with what you've been given, and that's really kind of the goal that I'm having.
Don't know why anyone's sad. 68.5%, and you could round that up. We got 69% field tilt, lads. How could you be sad with 69% field tilt? Right, we'll finish there. Thank you all for being here. We'll be back with a live show tomorrow. We haven't got a game this weekend. We've got the PSV game is our next one, so we'll have an instant reaction after that on Tuesday the 4th. We'll have a data pod out on Saturday. We've got a data pod coming out on Saturday. We've got a scout apps. Got a scouted of I think we've said we're going to do Gittins, right? Jamie Gittins.
We are, yeah. We're going to do Jeremy Bynum Gittins. So get your questions in, thoughts about it. But exciting player.
Just call him Jeremy.
Yep.
We're gonna do Jeremy Bino Gittins. He's got a brother. Yeah, so that's coming out Friday. Saturday is the data pod. Sunday we got then Monday we'll have the main pod out. So loads of stuff coming up. If you can stomach it. Josh Miller says, if we win it, I'll get a tattoo of Alex, George, Rohan, and Arteta as Mount Rushmore on my chest. Right, I'm clipping that. Josh, everyone clip him. Because you never know. You never know.
Oh, God.
Oh, thanks, George.
Thank you, good sir.
Thanks for watching. And thanks for some reason, for whatever reason you do it, and I don't know why we do it, keeping it Arsenal.
Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. Electrifying.